Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Rush Hour Sports Network. It is yours truly, Jay Smooth, and with me, of course, is B Money. Sir, how are you doing?
Doing good.
Good,
Chilling, bro.
good. So, we're here to preview Super Bowl 56, as well as, of course, give out our season end awards. But first, previewing the big game. It's obviously Rams and Bengals. The Rams come in at 12-5. The Bengals 10-7. First time two teams have ever had those records because of the 17 game season. And of course, in this game, the Rams, of course, the noted Los Angeles super team, of course, a franchise known for picking up big names midseason like Odell Beckham Jr. and Von Miller, in order to stack up a team loaded with talent such as Matthew Stafford, who they got before the season even started. And they come in as a 4.5 point underdog, which is the number that I heard Vegas most desire, because if it was, they went up to 5, they wouldn't have had that much money on the game. But 4.5 was enough to where they could squeeze in enough money on the Rams and on the Bengals as well. And of course, the Bengals, a team that was built the old fashioned way, kind of through drafting and through player development. And in a shocking development, that player development, it really took off when one piece in particular was drafted. Well, really two pieces, and that was Joe Burrow heading up the quarterback position, and of course his favorite weapon from LSU, Jamar Chase, already joining the likes of a offensive weapon in Joe Mixon, and all three have made one hell of a crazy offensive unit. The defense, highly underrated, not talked about enough. Obviously, not a lot of big names on that defense, I guess, if you count Eli Apple, but I don't think a lot of people do. Um, a defense, nonetheless, that has actually done enough and kind of come through in the clutch whenever Joe Burrow's needed them. And as a result, the Bengals have come in not just as the underdog, not just as a team that was built traditionally, but comes in as an underdog, as a 4.5 point underdog. And usually you look at this is a classic super team versus developed team type of game here, and it makes total sense as to why the Bengals would be the underdogs. What's crazy though is I would say in terms of overall NFL experience, obviously Stafford's the more experienced. But what's crazy about this is normally, you know, one quarterback would, sometimes you have a matchup where one quarterback has been in the Super Bowl before. Neither quarterback has been in this situation before. Joe Burrow's only in his second year, and Stafford has been in essentially NFL purgatory in Detroit for the majority of his career. So he's never not just sniffed the playoffs, but he has never even sniffed a Super Bowl game. So this is really a first for both, and we don't really know who's going to shoot. Like, we don't really know how they're going to act in a big game. Obviously, Joe Burrow's had big games, going back to LSU and whatnot, but as for Stafford, hasn't really been in that many big games. I guess in Georgia, he's been in a couple for the SEC, but obviously not to the level that Georgia's at now, where they, just were able to win a national title. But nonetheless, it's interesting. Like there's some people say that Burrow has the advantage. Some people say that Stafford has the advantage, but really, both these guys have never been here before, so it's kind of hard to tell in that sense. And then, obviously, you factor in the Rams' defense that Burrow has to go up against, and he's been up against some good defenses this year. But we're talking like Aaron Donald and Von Miller among many others, even having to worry about a disruptor like Jalen Ramsey in the secondary. So there's a lot for Burrow to think about. And really, speaking of that matchup, Jamar Chase and Jalen Ramsey is going to be one hell of a matchup to watch. Wide receiver versus the best, well, one of the best corners in the league. That's going to be interesting to watch in the fact that Chase is going to have to go up against a corner that's literally one of the best in the league, and if he can outbeat that guy, it's really going to say where his ceiling is and how far he's going to go. And then when you look on the other side, you have Stafford going up against a Bengals defense that's underrated, but somehow they've been able to get to the likes of of a Patrick Mahomes. They've been like really twice because they beat him. They beat him like what twice this season, right? I believe. I believe they
The
beat him.
Bengals beat Pat Mahomes twice. Yes, they did.
Yeah. So you have Stafford going up against a defense that beat Pat Mahomes twice, and a defense that is beaten up on quarterbacks such as the Ryan Tannehills of the world and Derek Carr's, and gave Lamar Jackson just all sorts of trouble. Gave the Ravens trouble twice this year. It's crazy. Like no matter what side of the coin you look at it, the matchups are going to be very interesting in this game. And even though the Rams are the favorite, it's hard to, like, obviously they're the favorite because they have the more experienced players and whatnot, but the Rams are sneaky good, and I can see why the point total is so low, considering everything. But I want to know your thoughts on the game.
I'm looking forward to this one. It's going to be a good Super Bowl. I think you you um, you brought us in a very good way, talking about how each of these teams are kind of made up differently. You can maybe make the argument that the Bengals are not even really done building this team.
That's
Um,
true. That's true.
when you consider that Joe Burrow is only in year two, and some of the things that are going on there, but they definitely have a good nucleus that they have building over there. You got
Is it
on the defensive side Trey Hendrickson and Jason Bates,
right?
and of course we know what they have on offense with Joe Burrow and Joe Mixon, and of course Jamar Chase
Is it
against Tyler Boyd.
is it fair to say that the Bengals are ahead of schedule in terms of their rebuild? Because just like a year ago, we were cursing them for what happened to Joe Burrow, and now look at them.
Oh, absolutely. I think no one expected the Bengals to do any better than win 8 or 9 games this year.
Right.
You know, and here they are. I forget how many games they actually won during the season, but here
They,
they
they
are.
they only won 10 games during the season. 10-7 was their record.
I
Surprisingly.
mean, even still, here they are. In the Super Bowl, and no one really expected them to make the playoffs or to be sniffing it.
Right.
And here they are. So yeah, I think definitely they're ahead of schedule, and that's exciting if you're a Bengals fan because I mean the thing to think about here is that here they are making the Super Bowl with the team that they have in year two for Joe Burrow, which means they got assuming the 5th-year option, 3 more years of Joe Burrow on a rookie contract that they can build around already as a Super Bowl caliber team. That's scary.
It is. It is, man. And it's funny because, as scary as that is, it makes me feel like this game's going to be very close. It makes me feel as if we're looking at a game that's going to be one score. I'm thinking within a field goal, though. I think it might be within a field goal, even though both sides are pretty high powered, like in terms of just what they have to offer on offense and defense. And just looking at a lot of the score totals, I mean, and a lot of the prop totals and whatnot. I mean, a lot of people could very well go off in this game, but as much as I really like the Bengals here, I feel like this is now or never for the Rams. Like the Bengals could easily come back here next year and win it all. They could very well come back to the big game, 2, 3 years and come back and win it all. They could very well be, what the Chiefs were before they lost some momentum. They could easily start to be that team that everybody has to look out for. But I feel like it's, and I've said it before, and I've obviously been wrong when saying it, but I feel as if the Bengals year is next year. And again, this is really their year in a way because they made it to the big game, but I don't think this is their year to necessarily hoist the big trophy. I believe they'll be back in the Super Bowl within like at least 2 to 3 times within the next 5 years if they keep it up. That is, if the development continues, if they're able to keep the team together for a good period of time, like
And I think most importantly, stay healthy.
yes, absolutely. That is number one. Stay healthy. If that team can stay healthy for the next 2, 3 years, I see them going back to the Super Bowl. I wouldn't be shocked if the Bengals ended up going back next year, or at least made it back to the conference title game next year. And with that being said, though, this for the Rams, this is now or never. I mean, this is literally why they put the team together. The regular season wins, we gave them hell about it, but it was mainly for them to get it all right for this moment, And we talked about for the playoffs, this is what they need to do, and it was. But really, they put that team together for the Super Bowl. They put, Von Miller, and gave him with Aaron and put him with Aaron Donald and with Jalen Ramsey. They bought in Odell Beckham Jr. to give Stafford another weapon for this exact moment. And I feel as if for the Rams, this is now or never. And because it's now or never for them, I feel like they're going to win. Obviously, not just Odell Beckham Jr., but when you have a weapon like Cooper Kupp, who's had like a freaking career year, it feels as if the Rams are destined for this moment. It's all on Matt Stafford, though. If Stafford's going to show up in a big moment, and also not just him, the defense needs to hold because they can't afford to keep giving up big leads. You know what I mean? The offense needs to hit that end zone, and the defense needs to not coast throughout the game and wait for the late fourth quarter to play some defense. They need to play defense from the onset in a game like this. So I am going to, even though the point total is only 4 points, well, 4.5 technically. I am going to pick, I'm gonna pick the Bengals. I'm gonna pick the Bengals. However, in terms of like gambling and whatnot, I would actually pick the Rams in this one. Like the Rams seem like the safe pick here at -4.5 because this is now or never for them. Um, I'd say just between, obviously just for an official pick though. I'm gonna go ahead and pick the Rams because it's now or never for them. I would love for the Bengals to have that upset, but for the Rams, this is literally the moment that this team was put together for mid-season. It was for them to get to the Super Bowl. If they don't win it, it's not going to spell good for their future if they don't. So I feel like because the Rams have a lot more to lose, and the Bengals can obviously get back to the big game next year and the year after. I feel like this is destiny for the Rams. It's in SoFi Stadium after all, so if they were to lose in Cali, it's a big embarrassment for the entire city of LA.
For sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Like losing a home playoff game is one thing, but losing the Super Bowl at home is like crushing. That's like the worst thing you could ever do. The worst thing you can do. So you know what? The Rams have all the pressure. I'm gonna go with the pressure team here. While my money is gonna go with the Bengals upset +4.5, I am going to officially pick the Rams to be the winner here. And my score, you know what? I would love for this. I don't feel like this is going to be a shootout type situation, even though I feel like Burrow is equipped for it. But I am going to say, I'm going to say 30. Rams 31, Bengals 28. I think 31-28, and yeah, I think it'll be by a field goal, a very close. Well, yeah, just by a very close margin. Rams get it in the end, and they kick field goal to win. How do you think it's gonna go? What team? And just score obviously doesn't matter, but if you had to put a score on it,
For me, I'm picking the Rams as well to win the game.
right?
I mean, you said it, where it's like it's do or die. It's their last chance. They have all the pressure, which for what it's worth, all the pressure being put on them was also every reason for them to potentially lose. Because they could crack under that pressure, and the Bengals could take advantage.
This is very true.
With the Bengals being, the younger team. I mean, it's almost not even worth it to note the younger experience of the Bengals because they've shown that doesn't matter this entire playoff season.
That's true.
But I think I'm picking the Rams. They have the firepower, on both sides of the ball. I think their defense is going to really disrupt Joe Burrow and that offensive line of the Bengals that they still haven't fixed. That was exposed in the Titans game. The only problem was the Titans couldn't take advantage because Ryan Tannehill sucks.
Right.
So I think I think this game's going similar in a fashion to that one is what I'm looking at.
Uh-huh.
I'm feeling like the Rams' offense is more capable of taking advantage of their defense having a great game. So that's why I picked the Rams. With that being said, I also wouldn't be surprised if this game becomes more defensive than it does offensive.
Right.
So, I'm thinking maybe a final score of somewhere along the lines of like 21-17. Rams getting the win.
Okay. That's not bad right there. 21-17. That's that's a defensive that's a defensive battle right there. Anything under 30 points. So yeah, it's a good one. We certainly are in agreement though. The Rams are the pick. I would love for the Bengals to prove me wrong, but yeah, I feel like the Rams might be the safe pick here. And by the way, folks, if you want if you want a guaranteed like a guaranteed bet, I probably am gonna go for the point total. Let's see. I picked 31-28. You picked 21-17. You know what? When thinking about it, like even though I threw that score out there, I feel like this game is definitely going to be at least either like close to the 30-point margin or under it. And I think as a like in terms of one team hitting 30, I think it might be slightly under. So you know what? Folks, I say go for the under 48.5 point total. It's probably like, even though your score is way lower than mine, I do feel that it likely will be a good little defensive battle for a good part of the game. There might be some scoring late, but if I had to like put actual money on it, I would say that under 48.5 point total looks pretty good at -105. So certainly consider that one, folks, if you want to stay away from betting on either team. But yeah, you and I are in agreement. The Rams are going to win, and that is our preview for the Super Bowl. Now, before we move on to our award segment, there was some news that we encountered actually as we went off the air last week. And I'm pretty sure you may or may not remember it. Do you happen to remember it by any chance?
Oh, was it about that motherfucker getting the job down in Jacksonville?
Yes, a certain former Super Bowl coach turned underachiever, got himself a little job down in Jacksonville, and his name is Doug Peterson. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Doug Peterson got himself a job, and is now the head coach of the. He is now the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, replacing Urban Meyer, who was fired for the season actually ended. Funny enough, and it's crazy, man. I did not see that one coming, but it says a lot that Byron Leftwich willingly said no to the job. It says a lot that he's like, yeah, I'm gonna take myself out of the running here. Pretty much just said he was done with all that. And speaking of coaches as well, it looks like let's see, the Texans, they ended up hiring Lovie Smith, and I feel bad for Lovie Smith. That was a hire from within. They pretty much promoted him, and old boy is going to be coaching the team. The Dolphins hired a head coach, some coordinator from the 49ers. I cannot think of his name. I think it was
Mike McDaniel.
Yeah, Mike McDaniel. Thank you. He is now their head coach. And then the final coaching position, the Saints, who, by the way, they pulled a Vikings move, interviewed a coaching candidate in Eric Bieniemy for 9 hours, and said, you know what, we're going to make Dennis Allen head coach. Because that makes all the sense in the world, right? I mean, what the hell?
Yeah, but I think I mentioned from the beginning he was always the favorite for the job.
Who? Dennis Allen?
Yes.
Yeah, he was. It just doesn't make any sense that they would go through the process of literally being the final team to make him coach. It literally was as if they waited for everybody else to make their hires So they had the perfect excuse to hire within. They're like, oh, see, everybody else is taken. Timing on that is pretty funny, considering that all they do is just literally promote somebody from within. But yes, that is all the news. Oh, and also the biggest news during Pro Bowl weekend, the Pro Bowl sucked. But the biggest piece of action, the biggest piece of news and excitement was not on the football field, but it was in an elevator. As Alvin Kamara, well, really, it was a group of his friends. All Alvin did was get a few shots in. They beat some man half to death in an elevator. And now Alvin Kamara is facing some serious charges. And there's a good chance he may have to do some time here because a man was beaten down bad and it was caught on camera, which is the worst part. You know what I mean? That's where it gets really bad. So Alvin Kamara looks like he may not be playing next season. It all depends on how this plays out during the offseason, but let's just say it's going to be an eventful one for the Saints. Dennis Allen, get to work, boy. You have a lot on your hands out there in New Orleans. You know what I mean? Yeah, hey look, let's just hope Alvin Kamara doesn't join Henry Ruggs. Let's just hope that doesn't happen. Luckily for him, though, all Alvin did was get a few shots in on the guy. His friends were the ones that beat the guy up. So, as Chris Carter says, Alvin Kamara is going to present his fall guy, and the fall guy is going to take the blame for all this. That's how I feel this is going to end. But yeah, that was the only piece of news from the Pro Bowl. Other than that, the Pro Bowl was garbage, from what I understand. did not watch a second of it. The last time I watched a Pro Bowl, I had to be maybe like in middle or high school. I haven't watched it. It's literally been that long for me. But anyways, now that we
some other coaching news, and I'm just gonna run through other hires, lesser hires, coordinator hires.
Sure.
The Panthers have hired Chris Tabor to be their special teams coordinator. He was previously with the Bears.
Yeah. Okay.
A head-scratching one. The Chicago Bears hire Richard Hightower to be their special teams coordinator. Hightower previously was the special teams coordinator for the Niners, who, even though they famously got a punt block and touchdown in the divisional round against the Packers, let's not forget that the Niners had the second worst special teams this season.
Exactly. So it's like
with the only team worse being the Packers.
Right. So apparently one of the Bears' goals is to have one of the worst special teams in the league. I mean, hey, if you're going to aim low, you may as well aim for the lowest out there, right?
Yeah.
Wow. Quite a move. What else we got?
For sure.
What else we got?
More news. The Detroit Lions hire Ben Johnson to be their offensive coordinator. He was previously their tight ends coach. The reason why they make this promotion is because the 49ers hired Anthony Lynn to be their assistant head coach. Anthony Lynn was the Lions' offensive coordinator.
Yeah, Anthony Lynn got himself out of Detroit. The water is a lot better and cleaner in San Francisco, as well as the future. So at least he'll be able to sleep better at night, I imagine.
For sure.
No doubt. Who else we got?
More news. An interesting one. After not getting the head coaching job with the Raiders, Rich Bisaccia is going to Green Bay, where he will be their special teams coordinator.
Wow, so he went from a head coach, a guy picking up John Gruden's scraps and going to the playoffs with him, to now being a special teamer in with the Packers. I mean, hey, it was a good run, Bisaccia, but I guess back to reality, eh?
Yeah.
Jeez. I mean, hey, I thought the guy would at least be an assistant somewhere. Damn. They just threw that man to special teams.
Right.
Damn, that's rough. At least he can say he went to the playoffs at least.
Yeah, at least maybe he'll have a chance. Who knows how the Packers are going to look next year at this point.
True.
More news. The Colts hired Gus Bradley to be their defensive coordinator, continuing with the Raiders' destruction. Bradley was the Raiders' defensive coordinator.
Oh boy, that's quite the move to make out there in Indy. What else we got?
Along with Doug Peterson being hired as the head coach, he's already hired his special teams coordinator, Heath Farwell. Farwell was
Who?
Farwell.
Never heard of him. Who? Wait, where's he from?
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Oh, okay. So I'm like, I've never heard of that guy before. Never once heard of dude. And you know what? The fact that we have to Google him says a lot. It says everything. Let's see. Go to profile. Yeah, he looks like he's a complete unknown.
He was with the Bills.
Oh goodness, they got Bill scraps. I hope that works for him.
Yeah. Replacing.
What up? Replacing who? Oh, his phone cut off. Hold on, we'll get him back. But let's see who else is out there. Oh, there he is. Hey, you back?
Yes.
All right. So what's up? Who else is left?
Replacing Gus Bradley as defensive coordinator on the Raiders is Patrick Graham. Previously
the Giants, right? Was that the Giants?
Hold up. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, he was one of the coordinating candidates, and he didn't get. Yeah, and he didn't get the job because he's black. You know what I mean? But yeah. But yeah, he upgraded though. I mean, he's gonna go out to a winner now. He's not gonna be with a losing franchise anymore, so that's good.
Very, very true.
Yeah, at least he's gonna be with a winner now, so it helps his reputation. But anyways, who's left?
The Chargers hired new special teams coordinator Ryan Ficken, who was previously with the Vikings.
Oh boy, that's not exactly an upgrade then. Oh, we'll have to wait and see how that works out there in LA.
Then my last two more defensive coordinator hires. Replacing Graham in New York for the Giants, the new defensive coordinator is Wink Martindale for the Baltimore Ravens.
I mean, it's only an upgrade if they have the pieces, and they don't, which means that defense, that's not gonna help Wink out at all. That kind of sucks for him. He had to fall on the sword in Baltimore, and now he's going to the Giants. That honestly, that should have been Greg Roman getting a job like that. Just be calling plays in New York. He shouldn't be calling plays in Baltimore anymore.
Well, what's wild about it too is that I know, like a couple of years ago, he was a head coaching candidate for the Giants.
Yes, he was.
And now he'll only be a defensive coordinator.
That's crazy. Insane how they, you know what, they literally, actually it's funny, I'm surprised they didn't interview him for the head coaching position. They're like, nah, we're gonna make you coordinator. You said no before.
Yeah.
Cold-blooded. But yeah.
And then our final coaching hire to report, the Pittsburgh Steelers hired Terrell Austin to be their new defensive coordinator.
Wasn't he a former running back or something? I remember that name in terms of playing. I know Terrell Austin.
I remember the name too. I feel like
that's funny.
Well, he it's a hire from within. He was on Pittsburgh staff already.
Yeah.
But his name would sound familiar as he was previously the defensive coordinator for the Lions before joining Pittsburgh a few years ago.
So he went from running the ball to calling defenses. That's interesting.
Yeah, and then he was also once the defensive coordinator for the Marvin Lewis Cincinnati Bengals at one point in time.
I see. So he's been around for a while.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Well,
that's all the news I got.
Well, that is all the news. Let's go ahead and run through our awards. I guess because the NFL awards are this weekend or whatever, so we may as well just go ahead and run through our awards.
Yes, sir.
All right. So did you want to go first?
Well, I guess yeah. Let's work our way up. I'll call them out. We'll work our way up.
Okay.
So first one I'll give you that we'll talk about is how about the worst coach of the year?
Oh, that's easy. That's Urban Meyer. He didn't even last.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, just off the fact that not only did he get fired, but it's the way he got fired. I mean, the guy loses in Ohio. He loses in Ohio, and then he decides to go to his own bar and play. I'm Urban Meyer, the old ball coach for the night. Big man on campus at his own bar. He kicked his own injured kicker in the back of the leg. He got in an argument with one of the nicest guys in the whole league, one of his own players. He also alienated himself from all of his own coaches by calling them losers and basically denouncing all of their resumes. And along that, he's managed to literally lose his locker room by preseason. Like, do you know how bad of a coach you have to be to lose your locker room during preseason? You know what I mean? And look, the signs were there. Anybody that have followed Urban Meyer knows that this is typical of him. The man faked heart attacks while getting his ass kicked by the University of Maryland when he was an Ohio State ball coach. I mean, the guy is a piece of garbage. You know what I mean? He has this mentality of, you must do as I say. It's that old college ball coach mentality. He has what I like to call the NCAA mentality. That's where the coaches pretty much are drill sergeants and the players are essentially people in the army. And he tried to bring that mentality to the NFL, and you can't do that. Chip Kelly tried to do it, and it failed. Nick Saban tried to do it, and it failed. Bobby Petrino tried to do it, and it failed miserably in Atlanta. So, you know, you just can't do that. And unfortunately, some of these college coaches that have big egos because they've won so much at the colleges that they come from. You can tell what college coach will make it and which ones won't, because the ones that won't make it are the ones like Urban Meyer that want to be big man on campus all the time, whereas the ones that do make it are all business. When the coach becomes a celebrity over the players, that's a problem. And that's exactly what happened with Urban when he was in Ohio State. He became a celebrity there, and then he tried and brought that ego to the league, and he got kicked out before the season ended. So easily, worst coach of the year has to go to Urban Meyer because no one managed to fuck it all up like he did in a span of one. Couldn't last one season like that. That is certified failure. You don't last a season.
Yeah, we're in agreement here. Our award goes to the same person.
Oh, no doubt.
Man, like you said it all, bro. Like how you don't make it through the season, all the shenanigans and bullshit that he put us through, bro. Is it is.
And
it's despicable.
and
To take a word from Stephen A. Smith is despicable.
it is. I mean, he made a fool out of people that believed in him, and I remember like a lot, and there were a lot of fucking people that thought Urban Meyer was going to be successful, and I was very skeptical of it. But my thing was, if he could get his head out of his ass, he was going to be very good. But he couldn't do that. See, Cliff Kingsbury, for example, a great example of a college head coach that came to the league and managed to do well. The man coached Pat Mahomes in college and built up a high powered offense in Texas Tech. That defense is still trash, but that offense at Texas Tech is legendary. They put up Madden numbers before a lot of these other schools did it. So some coaches know how to bring it to the league and make it work for them, no matter who the quarterback is. Urban Meyer was gifted a top draft choice in Trevor Lawrence, all these weapons, and a decent defense, and just he squandered all of it. So yeah, we are 100% in agreement. You got to give that man worst coach of the year. That might be one of the worst coaching jobs I think we've seen in the past decade. Because can you think of a coach that fucked it all up like he did in the span of a year?
I can't.
I can't either. And it's not just the fact that he got fired within a year, because other coaches like David Culley did, but it's the way he did it. You know what I mean? The way he went out. That makes him the worst of the year.
For sure.
Who else we got?
I'll give some honorable mentions. The other candidates could have been.
Okay.
Shout out to John Gruden, who was also fired in the middle of the season.
That is true. John Gruden, by the way, checked off all the boxes. Racist, homophobic, an overall piece of shit human being, scumbag. Certainly, he's another one that checked off all the boxes. And here's what's funny. His replacement took them to the playoffs with his team. Imagine what they would have done if Gruden didn't manage to be such a fuck up. They probably would have gone past the first round. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So definitely, that absolutely honorable mention. John Gruden's another bum.
Yes. And one last honorable mention I'll give for coaching, so that there's 3 nominees, if you will, is Mike McCarthy for the Dallas Cowboys for that atrocious playoff game.
Oh boy, choke. You know what? Not choke job of the year, but one of the worst playoff displays we've ever seen. You want to talk about a team that had so much hype, so much promise. They won so many games. They had a lot of people with them and behind them, and they went out in their very first game. It's not like they went out in the divisionals or the conference title. They went out in the first game. Very first game they played in the playoffs. They're up and out. That is not only embarrassing, that really points a lot to coaching. And what's funny is people have openly admitted Mike McCarthy pretty much lied to a senile Jerry Jones. And let's be honest, Jerry Jones is 90, and he was able to convince that old man that he was great. He probably showed him all the Aaron Rodgers highlights during the interview. You know what I mean? He showed the best of Aaron Rodgers YouTube highlight to Jerry Jones, and he's like, "Wait, you called all them plays?" And then he signed him on the dotted line. No, Aaron did that shit. So man, look, Aaron Rodgers is the sole reason McCarthy was even employed in Dallas. If not, McCarthy would be coaching a USFL or XFL or hell, maybe even a Canadian Football League team.
He coached in high school, cuz.
Oh man, he can. Yeah, that's right. He'd be coaching in high school somewhere in fucking Texas. My goodness. So absolutely, that's a good one right there, man.
Oh man, now, so that segues into our next award that we're about to give out. Our next award, ladies and.
What's the next award? Oh, I think he went out. Hold on, let me call him back. But wow. Yeah, man. It's funny with Mike McCarthy. Never been a big fan of McCarthy. Oh, there you go. We got you back?
Yes, sir.
All right, you went out for a second. I don't know what happened, but anyways, what is the next category, sir?
Choke job of the year.
Whew. Now, there are quite a bit of
I already know what mine is, so.
Yeah, there are quite a bit of them here. I'm gonna let you go first, though.
All right, my choke job of the year is Week 18, 1 o'clock, Jacksonville Jaguars versus the Indianapolis Colts.
Oh man.
Colts needed a win. And they would make the playoffs against the 2-win Jaguars, 2-14 Jaguars. They needed a W.
Right.
Yeah, it's a division opponent, but I don't care. The Colts are coming in as one of the hottest teams in the NFL at 9-7, easily about to get a wild card spot, and they take not just an L, but they get whipped 26-11 Carson Wentz has one of his worst games of his career. I think, what is his QB rating, like 2 or some bullshit like that?
Yeah.
Man, he just got whipped. And the rest of the team, same thing. Jonathan Taylor, useless. Even though he played well, but it was a little bit too late. The turnovers, all of it.
That is certainly a lovely candidate. Now this one hits close to home for me. Now, I know that throughout this game, the other team was in control. But just for the simple fact that it was their first win of the season, mine is going to the Minnesota Vikings against the Detroit Lions. The first win of the season goes to the Lions, and it is for the Lions was against their own rival, and it was an embarrassing fashion. I remember the game wholeheartedly, and one of the worst parts about this, from my own memory that I retained, the one thing I can never get over was how scared Kirk Cousins was in this game. I'd never seen the Detroit defense go after a quarterback or go after Kirk the way they did that night. I mean, they did that day. And the worst part about it is, you want to talk about somebody who folds under pressure. He tried his best to itch back and climb back, but he was so beaten up, so distraught, and just his spirit was so broken that toward the end, instead of Kirk Cousins, the garbage time master, he was Kirk Cousins, the turnover master, and he essentially just surrendered. He kneeled down and surrendered and said, "Here, Lions, take your first win against us." That, to me, it stood out in my mind, and I never got over it. The fact that the Lions' first win was against the Minnesota Vikings. And to me, it spells choke job, because this was a game where the Vikings were supposed to not just supposed to win. It was going to keep their season alive. And the Lions pretty much put a dagger in them in that game. That was the game where their season just ran off the tracks. And I couldn't believe the Lions were the ones to do it. So for me, yeah, Vikings choked big time against an opponent that they were not supposed to choke against.
Oh, man.
So yeah, that one to me, man, that stung. I could not hold on to that one or stomach it. It was so sickening to me.
Damn.
So
sickening. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, our nominees real quick, or our winners real quick, were the Indianapolis Colts in Week 18 and the Minnesota Vikings becoming the Detroit Lions' first victory.
Yes.
The third nominee, honorable mention, as I always give 3, I think has to go to the Kansas City Chiefs in the conference championship game.
Oh, that was a good one. Oh man, I have that right there. Never thought I would see Mahomes in that position. But what's crazy is, we had seen Pat Mahomes break down a lot during the season, and we saw the Chiefs have moments where we're like, is this team okay? Is this team going to hold it together? Is this kind of the end? And we saw the end. We saw it in that conference title game. We kind of saw the end there. And granted, Mahomes is still great, but the thing that's kind of come to an end is that whole Chiefs dynasty talk. Like, it kind of felt like it died in that game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like,
I think there's still a chance for them to be competitive.
Yes.
But
there is. But yeah, in terms of dynasty, though, I think they're dead in terms of dynasty, at least for now.
Yeah, I think mentally they got some things they need to fix moving forward.
Oh, yeah. I like that one. The other honorable mentions?
No, that's the only one, because I'll give 3 potentials. Gotcha. So if me and you give a separate one, I'll just give 1. Okay. But if we have the same answer, I'll give 2.
All right. So, I like that one, though. I like that a lot.
The next award is, we'll do one that's a little bit positive. How about Comeback Player of the Year?
You know what? This is probably gonna sound. This is probably gonna sound. I'd say obvious here, but Joe Burrow, because we remember what happened last year. This time last year, we were kind of cursing the Bengals. We were pretty much saying, "I hope you fucking lose for what you did to Joe Burrow." And for him to go from having his leg completely destroyed to leading a Bengals squad that, let's be honest, I mean, hey, as good as they are, it is Burrow that is keeping that team alive and carrying to greatness at this point.
Yeah,
At least on this run. So yeah, I got to give it to Burrow because this man went from having his leg destroyed to now playing in the Super Bowl. And I don't know how anybody else could really come back from something like that, especially when it was that god awful offensive line that caused him to be injured in the first place. And now that same offensive line he is carrying to the Super Bowl.
I agree 100%. Yeah, we got the same winner on this one.
Oh, no
I
doubt.
think Joe Burrow is the obvious case. Win or lose in the Super Bowl this week, the season that he had was nothing short of magical if you're a Cincinnati fan.
100%. Absolutely.
Some honorable mentions. I know we rag on them, but Dak Prescott from the Cowboys.
Oh boy.
I mean,
I mean it's
we rag on them, but for what it's worth, the reason why the Cowboys are at least competitive is because they have good talent, and Dak Prescott's one of them. So
that is a fact, man. They do have very good talent, and I mean, let's be real here. Dak Prescott played his ass off this year, man. He played his ass off to get there, and honestly, I don't think it's funny. I don't think um, the Cowboys would have even made it to the playoffs if it wasn't for him. So definitely got to give him his respect for that.
yeah, I agree. I'm trying to think of a third nominee. Um,
What are you thinking of? I'm thinking like really those two are good because nobody else that I can think like I guess it's funny. I would say Derrick Henry, but that doesn't really count because they
he never came
lost.
back,
Yeah, he
really.
never really came back and they lost, so he never really did that.
He
That's about
didn't
as
play well in the game that he came back in. So
exactly. So that's about as close as I can really get. Tua, nah. Big Ben, no. Mayfield sucks. Let's see.
I mean, yeah, and then after their choke job, I can't pick Carson Wentz.
Yeah, can't
You
pick
know,
Carson Wentz. Yeah. Can't really pick Cam Newton either because Cam Newton
yeah,
was
that
trash in
fizzled out real
Carolina.
quick.
Yeah, he was.
Oh man.
That they look. That man shouted, "I'm back" for one game, and his ass was back to the bench after that.
Oh my
Oh
goodness.
man, lasted all of 1 week, bro. Just 1 week.
I can't even really pick Russell Wilson either because he didn't really play well this year after coming back from injury.
Yeah, he played pretty bad. Let's see. Winston maybe next year. Matt Ryan no. Um,
I guess just to fill the spot, I'll give Jimmy G a shout because he was injured last year and he wasn't this year, and he led the team to the conference championship. Or excuse me, he got carried to the conference championship game.
That is true.
Um,
And now he's going to be carrying the Washington
now he's gonna be
Commanders.
carrying a big paycheck. That's what he's about to carry and shit.
Yeah, he's about to carry that big old Washington Commanders paycheck cuz trust me, they are going to shell out all the money to him cuz Russell Wilson does not want to go. Well, excuse me, Sierra doesn't want to go to DC.
You're right about that one, bro.
Oh man. That's going to be the difference maker there. Sierra's going to be like, "Nah, fuck that. We're staying over here."
Oh, bro.
Oh man.
All right, the next one, we'll stay with the positive vibes. This is going to be a tough one, I think. Game of the year.
Oh, you know what? I am going to give, and this is very tough. Uh, I don't want to do the whole recency bias thing, but it does seem as if it was one of the better games of the whole year, and that was Chiefs Bills. That was That was truly the moment for Josh Allen right there because Josh Allen played a magical game, but it was the defense that let him down. Mahomes and company survived, but that game right there had everything. It had the drama, it had the back and forth. It literally came down to one score. Neither team could stop the other, and because of the overtime rules and because of the coin toss, it went to the Chiefs because neither side was playing defense. The Bills were not going to stop them as soon as the Chiefs had that ball. So it had all the back and forth. It had the drama. It went into overtime, and it had a pretty dramatic ending to it. So I'm gonna go Chiefs and Bills on this one. The playoff game, of course.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to agree as well. I mean, there's so many great choices this year. We had a lot of great games
Yeah,
on
we
the
did.
slate. But I think I will agree. I don't think there's any recency bias there at all. It's definitely one of the greatest playoff games we've ever seen. I think.
It is,
Um,
man. It's funny because the only one that I thought I was gonna mention was the Rams and Buccaneers, but because Tom Brady did not complete the comeback, even though it was his final game, that one had a good story too. Because think about it, Rams go up big, they blow the lead. Tom Brady's like, "Fuck it, if this is my final game, I'm going out swinging." Comes back, falls short, and then retires right after because hey, he gave it all he had left, and that was it. So that also a good one, worth an honorable mention in my opinion. But yeah, because he didn't complete the comeback, that's why it's not my number one. You know what I mean?
yeah, no, I get you.
If
Um, yeah, I'm kind of with you. Some honorable mentions. I'll throw out a couple.
okay.
Um, Number one, how about Chargers Raiders Week 18?
Oh man, that was drama filled right there because
Yeah,
like the Steelers were on the edge of their seats thinking it was going to be a tie. And it's funny, the question all week was if this game it comes down to a tie game in overtime, are both coaches going to lay down and go into the playoffs, or are they really going to try to play it out with one going to the playoffs? And they played it out. It had all the drama that we wanted. It had all of it had all of the scoring we wanted. And in the very end, we got a winner. We didn't get a tie game. Both teams didn't lay down and roll into the playoffs. We ended up getting a winner at the very end of it, which I think left a lot of fans happy because you saw two teams actually fighting for it. They weren't just laying down and just kind of easing their way into the playoffs there.
yeah, yeah. No, I agree with you. And then a final one, just as a shout out to the team that we rep here on this show, Rush Hour Sports. How about the Ravens and Colts Week 5?
Oh yeah, that was a close one right there. That certainly was very exciting. It was one of the. It's funny because it was the early part of the season, and it was in the early stages of what's Carson Wentz gonna be, and how is that Colts team gonna look, and obviously the Colts went on a run, trying to get in the playoffs, but hey, that was one of those games where you looked at it and I'm like, you know what? This Colts team's got something between Taylor, Wentz, and that defense. I think they might have something there. It was very entertaining to watch. And as for the Ravens, uh, the Ravens season, even though it was lost, preseason, well, really in training camp, not even preseason, training camp, when we lost our stars, the fact that the Ravens were able to just go on, a nice little run and have success throughout the season and put up some good games despite going through everything and despite not even having Lamar for the full season. It really showed just how tough the Ravens are and how game they are, and it just goes to show that across the league, you know, even if your stars aren't always in, sometimes the backups can come in and put up such a great game. I mean, we've seen examples of that all across the league. We'll see a backup quarterback light up a defense for a week and then get shut down the next week, and we've seen a lot of that all throughout the year with the Ravens and Colts. We've seen both of them put up pretty good games, and when they finally clashed with each other, I'd say it was one of the better games. I'd say one of the better early season games. I should say one of the better early season games.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously there's so many great options that that we could throw out there, but those just a couple of our favorites.
Oh yeah.
Moving along, the next subject. How about let's turn it around? Skull Drag of the Year.
Oh wow! Now Skull Drag of the
A
Year.
Rush Hour Sports Specialty.
Absolutely, a big time specialty, and it's funny looking through week after week for a lot of the Skull Drags that we saw. There was one that stuck out. Let me see if I can. Hold on, I have a schedule in front of me. Let me see if I can find it real fast because there was a Skull Drag that I found that was. It was enormous. I believe it was the most amount of points a team had given up in a season. Well, yeah, in a season at one time. But I imagine you have your category, so I'll let you go first. Well, you have your choice. I'll let you go first.
I haven't quite decided mine, but I'm thinking about one or two.
Yeah, there's a couple that do jump out. Like for example, 30. Well, the Colts, of course, when they kicked the Texans 31-3, that was a big one. Hold on, there's another one. Oh, the Rams when they beat up the Giants 38-11. Like just a couple that come up the page, but a big one. Oh, actually, this one was pretty big. The Patriots put up 54 points on the Jets. They beat the Jets 54-13. This was one of the ones I was looking for. Yeah, because I believe the Patriots put up. I believe 54 points was the most that someone had put up on an opponent in the season. Week 7, the Patriots put up 54 points on the Jets, and the Jets only put up 13 points in Foxborough. That's pretty bad. You get beaten down 54-13. We're talking about a 41-point beating. I don't know if anyone else was beaten by a bigger margin than that. So that may have to be my Skull Drag of the Year. There is one that comes close, which is 44-6. the Eagles beating up on a basically a harmless Lions team. And by the way, the Browns put up 41 points against the Bangles, 41-16, which is wild to say. But yeah, I think Skull Drag of the Year is going to have to go to Patriots and Jets on my end because 54 points in a single game, I believe, is the most put up this season by any team during a regular season game.
I believe it was. I think that's correct.
So yeah, by default, that's going to have to be my choice.
I'll throw out another one. Cowboys, Falcons, Week 10. Cowboys win 43-3.
Ooh.
40-point win.
Oh, now that is 43-3. That's a brutal one right there. That is a full on beatdown. I also see one. The Kansas City Chiefs put up 48 points against the Raiders. Only put up 9 points. 48-9. That's pretty fucking bad. That is really bad. Oh man, that's certainly a terrible one. Let's see what else we got.
And I gotta throw this one. I think this is the last one we can maybe go on.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta make a shout out here to I believe it's Week 15.
Oh wait.
The score wasn't very huge, but I gotta put a shout out to this. Week 15, the yearly Saints whooping the Buccaneers 9-0. And granted, again, the Saints didn't score a lot of points because Taysom Hill's not a good quarterback. But they shut down Tom Brady and the Bucs. This was the game that Chris Godwin got injured in. I think they lost Mike Evans and Leonard Fournette, which basically kind of really turned the Bucs season on its head. Yeah, I gotta make a shout out to that one.
Nice. And by the way, shout out to the Cowboys because I made a mistake. Week 16, the most amount of points scored in the game is not 54 by the Bucs, but 56 by the Cowboys. They beat up the Washington football team, now known as the Washington Commanders, 56-14 in Dallas.
Dang.
56-14. That is the most amount of points put up by any team this season. 56-14. That is a 43 point. I'm sorry, that's a 42-point beatdown. That is, I believe, the widest margin of victory for the year. So I'm gonna have to change my award. I'm gonna have to give it to the Cowboys there, because even though the Patriots do have a 54 point, they put up 54 points on one opponent. They did put up 50 points on the Jaguars, beat them 50-10. But just by point, like as far as the amount of points in the skull dragging, I'm gonna have to give it to the Cowboys for what they did to the Washington football team
Gotcha.
by default. So yeah, I'll have to give them that one. So Cowboys, congrats! You didn't win a playoff game, you didn't win a Super Bowl, but you got a Skull Drag of the Year award at Rush Hour. Congratulations!
There you go.
There you go.
There you go. Our specialty. Moving on, the next one we already gave worst coach of the year. Now it's time for best coach of the year. Who you got?
Ooh, you know what? I am gonna have to go. It's funny. I want to give it to I wanted to give it to the Bills coach, but after what we have witnessed the Bengals doing this season, I'm gonna have to give it to Zach Taylor. I don't know what the hell Zach Taylor did to get Burrow and the gang together. I don't know what he managed to do, because just 1 year ago, this man's play calling was garbage. It was putrid. It was embarrassing. People across Cincinnati were ready to throw bricks through this man's house. His play calling was so atrocious. And yet, the man has turned it around, and he has led this crew of misfits to a Super Bowl in shocking fashion. So, hey, there are a lot of good jobs around. Like the Bills, the Bills head coach did very good.
Sean McDermott. Yeah.
Sean McDermott, yes, thank you for that. Shout out to Sean McDermott, he did well. I wanted to. I thought about Sean McVay again, but I don't think I can do that. They need to win a Super Bowl in my eyes, so no. I thought about I thought about fucking Shanahan and San Fran for what he was able to do with that bum Jimmy G, and of course, what he was able to do with Debo Samuel and everything. But I feel like I would be doing a disservice to Zach Taylor if I didn't mention him for what he did this season, because no one, not even people across Cincinnati, and if they say it, they're lying. But not even people in Cincinnati had them in the Super Bowl this year. So
sure.
Yeah, just for them making it here. Like a year ago, Zach Taylor was a bum getting Joe Burrow killed with his terrible play calling. Everything from the bad line to the horrible play calling got that man killed. And Zach Taylor went from setting his QB up to fail to now potentially setting his QB up to become maybe Super Bowl MVP, maybe Super Bowl champion. So I got to give it to Zach Taylor of the Bengals. Got to give it to him.
I agree completely, and I also agree with the honorable mentions that you brought up. Sean McDermott from the Bills, Kyle Shanahan from the Niners. I think those are all strong candidates, and I think ultimately, at the end of the day, it's got to go to Zach Taylor and the job he's done with Cincinnati.
One, I would say honorable mention as well. The dude that took over for the Raiders.
Rich Bisaccia.
Thank you. Yes, Bisaccia. The fact that he took over for Gruden midseason, and Henry Ruggs, they got in that drunk driving accident, killed somebody. Now he's going to prison. They had the cornerback who had the gun in the video, and he was going off to jail. And all the problems and all the drama that they had on and off the field. Somehow Bisaccia kept that team together and led them to a playoff run and one of Derek Carr's best seasons. And in a way, Derek Carr's job is now going to be saved because Josh McDaniels is a fan of his. So, in a way, Bisaccia, the fact that he helped keep all that together when John Gruden was going down and the whole team was going down with him, the fact that he led them even to a playoff appearance, I think is worthy of a mention. So, Bisaccia, you get the honorable mention from me.
So I'm actually, before we get to the final three that everyone's been waiting for, I'm actually going to add one award, which will give us an even 10 total. And this one's going to be most disappointing team.
Most disappointing team. I am going to give to the LA Chargers because the Chargers were supposed to take that step up this season. They were supposed to finally get over the hump. They were supposed to get into the playoffs. Justin Herbert was supposed to evolve, and yet they choked down the stretch. They lost games they were not supposed to win. Herbert uh, performed well for the most part this season, but still struggled in a lot of spots. And honestly, I felt like the Chargers should have been they should have been the threat out of the AFC West. It shouldn't have been the Raiders getting in there. It should have been the Chargers in there. I feel like them, bottoming out at the end of the season and struggling at the end of the season. It was disappointing. And if in my one honorable mention would have to be the Cardinals. The Cardinals had the hottest start of any team in the league. They were undefeated, the last undefeated team throughout the regular season, and then first round of the playoffs, they get absolutely stomped and only put up 8 points. And Kyler Murray played one of the worst games I think I've ever seen him play in his career. So they get an honorable mention. But yeah, overall disappointment, going with the Chargers 100%. I thought they were at least going to go to maybe the divisional round, maybe the conference title game this year. They did neither, and really all they did was just choke down the stretch, man, and it was disappointing.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with the Chargers. They're my pick as well for the most disappointing team. For all the reasons that you mentioned, I mean, they seem to have everything they needed, all the pieces, and just were started losing games they shouldn't. They were just shaky, and things just didn't work out for them, and they missed out in the playoffs. I think the Cardinals are a good honorable mention. I'll also throw out as another honorable mention team. You know, I'll throw out the Cleveland Browns just because,
Yeah.
Coming into the season, we expected them to be a contender. And Baker Mayfield just didn't have his best year, and the ship sank from there. And that was it.
By the way, but actually that is not only that is that good, but what does it say that Odell Beckham Jr. says, "Get me the hell out of here," goes from Cleveland to LA, and now he's playing for a Super Bowl.
Yeah, right.
It's almost as if Odell could have been there in Cleveland if he didn't have a certain bum at quarterback.
It's true.
I mean, hey, LA's got a super team too. Only difference is their quarterback is Detroit's leftovers, who's actually not that bad. And the only difference is he's miles ahead of where Baker midfield is right now because midfield is literally middle of the pack.
Yeah.
So hey, it says a lot, man. And to be honest, bro, I won't be surprised if this leads to more players potentially leaving the Browns next season. I mean, Tyreek Hill has already kind of hinted that he's kind of not Tyreek Hill. Kareem Hunt has already hinted that he's kind of through with Baker's bullshit out there. And to be honest, I don't blame him. I don't blame him at all. Get out while you can. If you want a Super Bowl ring, get out, or at least contend for one. Get out of Cleveland.
Yeah, and I think also with that being said too about Odell Beckham, I think if the Rams lose the Super Bowl, I think we're going to change who wins this award because it's definitely Super Bowl or bust.
Absolutely. It's funny. That's one of the things that prevents me from giving the Rams some awards because it's like, they kind of really after the Super Bowl is when I'll know if they deserve anything or not. They got to win it.
Yeah, I agree.
Definitely got to win. Anyway, what's next?
And finally, that brings us to the final three, the best ones. We'll start with, of course, because it wins championships, Defensive Player of the Year.
I am gonna go ahead with the same guy that I would say was probably like one of the better defensive rookies. I'm gonna go with Micah Parsons of the Cowboys. He certainly shined a lot, had one of the better seasons that some of the rookies have had, and I mean, if I'm gonna be honest, a lot of rookies in this class, for the most part, were underwhelming and underperformed a bit. There were some rookies who were not put in the best positions, and there were some rookies that just, rookies like a Trevor Lawrence or a Najee Harris that were like Najee Harris put in an okay spot, but didn't exactly get a chance to shine. Trevor Lawrence, he was given a head coach that had no idea what the fuck he was doing, so this entire season was wasted for somebody like him, and so on and so forth. But Micah Parsons shined big time for me. He stood out a lot in a lot of games I saw where the Cowboys were featured. He was always present, and quarterbacks were afraid of him because of how fast he was. He was just zooming around these slow, fat offensive linemen and getting the quarterbacks and terrorizing them and getting in the backfield quickly. So I got to give it to Parsons.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great pick. For me, I hate to do this because not the hugest fan, but I think the de facto, it kind of has to go to T.J. Watt for tying the single-season sack record.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good pick, too.
He's my pick for Defensive Player of the Year. Yeah, I think we got to go with him.
Yeah.
Aaron Donald's also always a good pick. He was up there in sacks as well.
That's true.
Among the top, and also had a pretty good, just in general, tackle total. He was a beast on the inside all year long.
Definitely. I could certainly understand that one, and the T.J. Watt pick too. That's a good pick.
Yeah, and a lot of people might be wondering, well, where's Trayvon Diggs in this? But like, as many interceptions as the man got, we also know that he's prone to giving up a lot of big plays. So like, he's not there yet for me.
Yeah, that I kind of feel the same way. Trayvon Diggs, without a doubt, is going to be one of the best DBs in the league. There's no question. He certainly has all the tools for it. But yeah, all those picks, and yet he also was burnt in the process. It's kind of like Jameis Winston. You're going to get 30 touchdowns, but you're going to get 30 interceptions. Yeah, I mean, you're going to get a lot of picks with Trayvon, but he's also going to get burnt more than half the time. It's like, are you really going to accept that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you gotta be locked down. You can't be Jameis Winston. You can't throw 30 touchdowns and 30 picks and be called great. It don't work like that.
Yeah, I agree. Of course, the next one, Offensive Player of the Year.
Offensive Player of the Year, man. So many good choices, but I got to go with Jamar Chase, man. Jamar Chase absolutely took this season and ran with it. He was one of the most exciting and dynamic wide receivers in the league. The one that comes second to me in my mind was Debo Samuel. He was another one that really stood out on the offensive side of the ball. But man, I got to give it to Jamar Chase. He took it over in a way because that offense became his. Even though you have Joe Mixon in the backfield and Burrow, creating opportunities for other receivers, it was a lot of Jamar Chase's work that helped bring the Bengals to this point where they are now, contending for a Super Bowl Sunday. So you got to give it. So I personally am going to give it to Jamar Chase.
For me, I gotta give it to Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp had easily one of the best wide receiving seasons ever.
Right.
And he did it with a final total of 145 catches, which is the second most in NFL history, and 1,947 yards, which is also the second most in NFL history. Um, and the wild thing is too, I know for Cooper Kupp is that he did it this year. Or he got to these points. Yeah, he did it in 17 games, but he was basically getting close to these records. He was already making second place like by the end of week 17 with 16 games played. It's just incredibly impressive.
Right. All right, that's a good choice. Who you got for the last category? Or who we got for the
And
last
then
category?
our final category, the one we've all been waiting for, that we all know is essentially actually the quarterback award, and that's the MVP.
Yeah. Yeah, MVP. It was, I mean, obviously, there were candidates like a Josh Allen or a Mahomes who would have been great choices. Some people could even point to Stafford, some people could point to Brady, but uh I mean, hey, who else are you going to point to, right? But Joe Burrow. I mean, just continue considering what he did this season was pretty insane. Stafford, I'd say, is up there too, considering what him and Cooper Kupp were able to do this season, which is honestly phenomenal. As you said, never been done before. But I gotta give that award to Burrow because he took the ball and ran with it throughout the entire season. He put up numbers we didn't expect him to put up, considering the fact that that offensive line was not great and the defense was subpar at best. So he really had to light up the scoreboard in order for his team to win, and he was able to do that more often than not. And of course, he helped lead his team to this very moment where, again, about to be going for a Super Bowl on Sunday. So it's funny because I usually would give out an award like this after the Super Bowl, after the game's already been played, especially, well, usually if a nominee's in the game. And in this case, Burrow is, but since we're doing it beforehand, I'm going to go ahead and give it to him.
Yeah, I understand. It's tough to give it before the Super Bowl. Unfortunately, the NFL does it anyway too.
Yeah. I don't know why they do that too. It's so ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, and with that being said, I feel like at the end of the day, probably I have a feeling who's actually going to win the MVP is probably going to be Tom Brady.
Yeah.
And the main reason why is because even though his team's not in the Super Bowl, didn't even make it past the divisional game, Tom Brady did finish the season with the most passing yards of any quarterback and the most touchdowns of any quarterback.
Exactly. And plus it was his last season anyway, so they're probably going to give
Yeah,
it to him just
yeah.
just for that.
Add in the recency bias of him retiring, that all stands true. But I think your recommendation of Joe Burrow is very strong too, because I'm looking through the stats of the quarterbacks this year, all of them, and Joe Burrow is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th, had the sixth most yards
Oh wow.
this year, and touchdowns. He's a little bit further down there. He's also like still in the top 10, but like in the lower half of the top 10.
Mhm.
But what's impressive about Joe Burrow being in the top 10 of quarterbacks this year is that he had the highest yards per attempt. He averaged almost 9 yards per attempt, while just about everyone else was 8 yards or less.
Oh wow.
And furthermore, as a result of that, because of that high average, almost every quarterback in this top 10 had at least 600 passes this year. Burrow did his stats in 520. So that's basically like two games worth of throws that he didn't have, and he was still top 6 in yards, one of the best in touchdowns, had the highest completion percentage. So
Absolutely crazy, but yeah, it really goes to show that Burrow, it's crazy. He went on, like, even though Burrow went on to put up a good season, Brady went on to put on a good one as well. Unfortunately, like you said, the recency bias is why he'll win it. But Burrow's case is so fucking strong, and really, imagine if he wins the Super Bowl. Even though he's not going to be, he's still not going to win the award. If he wins the Super Bowl, like at that point, he'll be like fucking people's MVP at that point.
Yeah.
He'll be a people's champion because, again, this was unprecedented. Nobody thought the Bengals would make it to this point. And by the way, there's somebody that should go under the disappointment category I didn't think of till now, and that's Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. That's a team that I felt was a bit disappointing because, we're talking about MVPs and whatnot. Aaron Rodgers really packed it in this, like, throughout the second half of the season. Like, remember The Last Dance, and, you know, this is going to be our final run to the championship, and it was the Chicago Bulls Michael Jordan theme for the season for him. And when it came down to clutch time for Rodgers to advance his season, the man played conservative and he said, fuck it, I'm done. And he rolled over. And to me, that does not scream like MVP type behavior. Whereas you look at somebody like Burrow, Burrow's not going to fold. Tom Brady wasn't going to fold when he played the Rams. He came up short, but he didn't fold. You know what I mean? Like, quarterbacks that don't quit and that don't fold up, they're worthy of being MVP. And this season, Aaron Rodgers did not perform like an MVP to me. He put up really good numbers, but did it scream MVP to you? Because to me, it did not.
No, I mean he had the highest quarterback rating this year, but nah, I can't quite see it.
Yeah, it's like and don't you think maybe disappointing because again, Last Dance expected to go to the big one, expected to be in the mix, like with some of the better teams, maybe in the championship game or so, and they just end up getting bounced in their first game.
Yeah, it's rough way to go out with the expectations.
Absolutely. So yeah, man, I like your MVP. I think even though Burrow has that strong case, it's definitely gonna go to Burrow. Oh, and also, I would say honorable mention. Oh, actually no. I think we're good. I think we got everything. Is there everything we
Yeah,
got? Yeah.
I think Joe Burrow I think was kind of our pick for the studio. Of course, Tom Brady we mentioned is probably going to win it as our honorable mention.
All right, makes
By
sense.
the way, another thing, Joe Burrow does this, and this backs up our point further, especially if it ends up being their Achilles heel in the Super Bowl. Joe Burrow was the most sacked quarterback in the NFL this year.
Ah, and you know what? That could come back to haunt him because that's why I feel like they're ahead of schedule in their rebuild because part of that rebuild for the Bengals was to get an offensive line to protect Burrow after his knee exploded during his rookie year. Uh, yeah, it's crazy because they could very well get mauled by Aaron Donald and like the front, the defensive front of the Rams. It could very well happen. They could get picked apart.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, because he's not too far behind, and he missed like the last 5 games. But I think it would have probably ended up being Lamar Jackson if he played the whole season. But yeah, Joe Burrow was the most sacked quarterback in football this year.
Yeah, it certainly says a lot. But yeah, you're right though. Probably would have been Lamar if he actually would have lasted the whole year. But yeah, man, that's crazy right there. And to think that Joe Burrow could very well win a Super Bowl with that bad offensive line it says just how clutch he is.
And it also shows that how much better the Bengals can get in the next couple of years too.
Exactly. They still have a. It's funny. They're only like what. Technically, this is what year one. Like really, the rebuild to me started as soon as Burrow was drafted. So that was we're like what year 2 into it right now.
Yeah, this is year 2.
Yeah. So this is year 2 of the Bengals rebuild, and they're already looking at a Super Bowl. That means, like you said, year 3, year 4. Maybe year 5, depending on how things go. They could be the new scary team in the AFC and in the NFL in general. But hey, we're all gonna find out and see. Because if they get stomped in the Super Bowl, that just lets us all know they have a lot of work to do. But if they put up a good game in the Super Bowl, and let's say they go down in that big game, in that close game, then at least they come out, with a lot of positives for the next season. And of course, if they win it all,
Been a big win.
yeah, and then of course if they win it all, I mean, at that point, what else are you going to do? You're only just going to get better from there.
In which, cough, cough, maybe they're the dynasty talk we should be talking about instead of the Chiefs.
You know what? Hey, it could very well happen, and you know what? Considering the fact that the Chiefs are no longer in that dynasty talk, and now that we're looking for that new team, if the Bengals pull it off this Sunday, and if the Bengals were able to, I think if the Bengals could pull it off this year, and then maybe at least get back to the Super Bowl next year, or maybe get to the conference championship game, then yeah, we could very well be having dynasty talk about them. I think the time what they do between Sunday and then of course what they do next season is going to tell us everything.
For sure.
Absolutely. Is there anything you'd like to close out with before we head out for the night?
Have a good Super Bowl.
Definitely,
Should be a great
folks.
game, hopefully.
Absolutely, folks. Have a good Super Bowl Sunday. It is going to be a 4.5 point game. And remember, everybody, I am going live for the game on my main channel, Rush Hour MMA. I will be live at 7 o'clock Eastern Time, right when the game kicks off. And it should be a fun time. I'm going to be doing commentary for that game. And yeah, 4.5 point favorites are the Rams. Bet responsibly, everyone. I am likely just going to stick with the the under. I'm going to go under 48.5 points. Obviously, we're both picking the Rams, though, but under 48.5 points total is the confident pick that I can give you guys. Anyways, though, hope you guys enjoy the game. For B Money, it is your boy Jay Smooth. We appreciate you guys listening in tonight. And hey, enjoy the game on Sunday. And of course, we will be back next week to wrap up the big game. And I believe that will next week marks the official off-season talk, right?
Yeah, it was a Super Bowl wrap up, and yeah.
Yeah, man. Our Super Bowl wrap up, and that will begin our off-season talk, where we begin to do our deep dive into all 32 teams. You know, our little weekly series that we were going to start to do, where we just deep dive into all these teams and we talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, and of course what needs to happen. So definitely tune in for that to hear about us talk about your favorite team. But until then, folks, enjoy Super Bowl Sunday. B Money and I are out.